So, this video I'm going to show you now is a little boy. He's very sweet. We didn't choose him deliberately, he was just the next client who was in doing the BEST programme. He's got no other health concerns, so his hearing's fine, his motor development's fine, all that kind of thing. He was referred at 4 years, 3 months, and if my colleague Carol Stowe were here, she'd tell you that children are referred much later, bilingual children, because people are waiting for them to develop and saying, you know, refer them when, as soon as the parents are worried. And he's a Mirpuri monolingual speaker. The reason for referrals, Mum was concerned about speech sounds and putting sentences together. That was from the teacher, and Mum was concerned about hearing. Actually, when we spoke to her, she wasn't concerned about hearing, she was concerned about his understanding. But that was mistranslated by school. So when we spoke to her with a trained SLTA who's bilingual, we found out it was about understanding. He's been seen since September this year, and Dad speaks Mirpuri, Mum does Mirpuri in English, but she speaks to him Mirpuri at home because she's talking to Dad anyway. So at his baseline assessment, we did an adaptation of the Derbyshire language scheme, which we adapted for Mirpuri and got around all the things that I used for my PhD. He could do single word nouns, single word verbs, and 2 information carrying words, but not more. And he couldn't demonstrate understanding of longer or more complex utterances. In his own utterances, he didn't use any expression that included agents, and there were mainly 1 and 2 word utterances. And there were lots of gaps in his verb vocabulary. So, in the space of 4 sessions, he's gone from 2-word production, very bare sentences, to using a range of agents, which he gets correct now, confusing man, lady and boy. He's using longer sentences, full sentences. He's correcting his errors. You can tell he's still thinking about it, but he's a much more confident speaker. Now, what surprised me was that something so structured, I thought he would only keep to those things, but his teacher and his mum are saying that he's now trying to figure out how to use the sentences at home and at school. And bearing in mind how impaired he was at this age when he's in school, you know, his mum was very worried about him, and rightly so. But we think that by working on the process rather than copying and learning by rote, because we've shown him, look for patterns. So the preliminary results we've just to explain, well, in the baseline, we show them a set of actions and record what they say, which is usually very little. But then we also do a fine motor assessment, which is just the VMI voter. It's basically just drawing lines and then increasingly complex patterns. Because one of the things we wanted to see was it just maturation? And actually it isn't. It's that their fine motor skills haven't changed, and their language skills have changed. Also, the children's understanding has increased demonstrably as well. So we've not worked on their comprehension, but because they're using it, they've abstracted their language comprehension skills. And this goes against the usual mantra that's taught about language acquisition, that understanding precedes production. We now actually think that children try using sentences and then start to match the meaning by the reaction of what happens. And I think that's probably right. We think it's good for diagnostic therapy, and children with poor exposure to language develop rapidly because we're highlighting, look, this lot we've changed, look, this lot we've changed. We've eliminated jargon in some children, so some children are very disordered. And sadly as well, some teachers and assistants thinking that that's another language, that they're speaking their home language, and it's not, and they've not checked, it's just jargon. And most children are starting to generalise. We think that the kids with social communication don't, but that's not a surprise, because they would have those difficulties in every case. They've got an increase in content words, an increase in grammar and morphology and MLU, and the consistency of use is better. And for language, we know that children, unless they reach 90% consistency, they don't hang on to it. So you might get a child who occasionally says run or occasionally says eat, but unless they're saying it 9 out of 10 times, it's not going to stick. So that's why we keep going with this programme until they can do it at least 90% of the time. As I've said, the VMI showed that there was no a similar increase, so it's not just maturation. We think that it's cross-linguistic, so a theory of language acquisition should inform the development of language packages, no matter which language you're using. English, as we know, is a bad language to pick. If you were a Martian wanting to choose a typical human being, you wouldn't choose a weird monolingual freak from a strange island. You'd go somewhere where there were bilingual people. I always tell the students, if you're not bilingual, you're a freak, you're strange, because human beings are bi and multilingual to some degree. And so we should be developing models of assessment and therapy which are based on the norm, which is bilingual. It's got face validity. The parents like it because they can practice it at home. You can do real actions, walking to clinic. You can do, you can go and play games. You can talk about what you're doing. And actually, I feel that culturally, parents feel much more comfortable talking about their own activities than working directly, because in our communities here, it's much more the job of older children to look after children in terms of play. And adults don't feel comfortable doing the parent-led interaction like the Hannon schemes, and we know that when we've tried those, they've been really poorly attended because parents, it doesn't match their learning style, it doesn't match their interaction style, and we should take that into consideration. I think I'm going to leave it there because that's the best programme. We're going to look now for funding towards that to take it to try and do a larger study where we can actually randomly allocate kids to DLS, a good language environment, watchful waiting environment, and the best programme to see if it is a true effect, but it looks promising. But like I say, I think the main thing is that it's a collaboration between a university and practitioners on the ground. I also think that the questions we need to ask is it useful for additional language learners, in that the processes for acquiring language must be similar in terms of pattern spotting and those kind of things. So I think we could look at those groups as well. And I think that in the past, when I first started work, we worked closely with additional language teachers because of the cuts, because of the pressures. We've withdrawn, but we've lost, the baby's definitely been chucked out and not the bathwater, and I think it's really important that people who are involved in language learning of whatever type look at turning real theory into practice, because there's still a gulf between people, practitioners who say I want practical things to do, and researchers who say you're doing it all wrong. Well, the researchers and practitioners need to come up with packages where we're doing it right theoretically and practically and culturally. So hopefully this is a step in the right direction. And that's all I've got to say about the BEST programme, but I'll be glad to take any questions.